Now for this session we have Professor Indraneel Bhowmik, Professor Department of Economics, Tripura University, who is going to moderate the session. I request her to kindly come on stage. Two panelists in this session. Professor N.B. Bezbaruah, who is right now Professor in Head Department of Economics at Bhawan University, Vice President TIES, and his key areas of interest includes agricultural economics, development issues, and more importantly, the economy of Northeastern region. I request sir to kindly join us on stage. The second panelist, Engineer Sushanta Dutta, Head School of Logistics, SIPARD, Government of Tripura. I also request her to kindly join us on stage. Thank you. I hand over the session to Professor Bhowmik to moderate with the opening remark, and then the panelists can speak.
Good afternoon. I think it's a pleasure for Tripura University to be hosting TIES. We have been trying an association with TIES for quite long, maybe around for the last 10-15 years we have been exploring in ways out, and it is really wonderful that in 2024 it materialized, and I'm very happy that today in this stage I'm sharing the dais with Professor M.P. Bezbaruah, and it was his call in June 2023 that made this conference possible. It started with his call that TIES wants to have its session in Tripura University. So sir, it's a pleasure having you here. I'm also very happy to have a close friend, Engineer Sushanta, who is heading the School of Logistics in Tripura University, in the State Institute of Public Administration and Rural Development. And Engineer Dutta is associated with building up this school because particularly in the backdrop of Tripura and its location, this aspects of logistics is gaining greater importance with every passing day. Without taking much time on my own, I know we have to finish off by time. I would just like to state that the objective which has been stated as per the topic of the panel, it states that about Northeastern region and its situation under the aspect of sustainable development goals. It is we have to note that among the sustainable goal indicators, the Northeastern states, particularly Mizoram and Sikkim, are the two states whose SDG scores are higher than the national average, whereas all the other states lie below that. And among these, there are various indicators. We also have the Northeastern district level SDG indicators, and I'm very happy to see Professor E. Vijay Kumar Singh, who was part from Manipur University, who was part of this entire exercise for the districts level estimates and all. And there also we have seen that there are wide variations within the districts of the region. It is also interesting to note that Tripura features pretty strongly, the districts of Tripura features pretty strongly among the districts of the Northeast, but we will come to it. But to flag up the session, I would request Professor M.P. Bezbaruah to give us an overview about the entire region as a whole, and then we will hear from Mr. Dutta. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Indraneel, and very good afternoon to my co-panelists here and all of you sitting in the front. As you must have seen, there are several editions of the program. So I am a last minute entrant to this particular panel discussion, and probably because some panelists couldn't make it to the whole thing. And if you have a panel discussion, there has to be at least two speakers apart from a moderator. So I fill in the number. All right, and I'm very happy to do the job, but only thing is that I will not go up to the sustainable development gap goals, because for that I don't have the material ready here. I would like to tell the story of Northeast India, how it emerged, what has been the issues and all that, particularly targeting those of you who have come from outside. Very few may be here, but at the same time I think it's a story worth telling. So if I go to the Northeast region as a whole, you can see the map all the time. This actually is it constitutes about 8% of area of the country, which accommodates about 4% of the population, and the economy, it accounts for about 2.5% of the economy of India. So the first two ratios, that 8% of area inhabited by 4% of population, may give you the impression that this land, the land is very, very available, abundant and all that. But idea is maybe misleading because of the fact that 70% of the region is mountainous, where naturally population densities are low. So if you go to any plain areas of say Assam or Manipur or for that matter Tripura, the plain areas are as thickly populated as anywhere in the country. Now the fact that it is 2.5% of the economy, which is shared by 4% of the population, shows that the economy is slightly lagging behind the all India and everything in the per capita terms. Now, what I'd like to say here is that we have to bring in a little bit of colonial history into the discussion, because when India became independent, this part of what we call today the Northeast India, it has three types of administrative arrangements. All right. The first one was, you can say this smaller one, the two princely states of Tripura and Manipur, which are nominally independent, of course. And then we had the plains, basically the plain areas of Assam, where the colonial administration was very firmly established, properly established, and colonial economy, very, very extractive kind of, based on plantation, you can say mining and forest resources, very extractive kind of colonial economy was there. Railways were developed to transport goods mostly out of it and also to bring in, of course. So that was, so a modern sector of the economy came up in the plains of Assam. Then there were the hills. I mentioned 70% of the hills. Hills were a little problematic to manage. So what did the colonial rulers do is that they left the hills, very lightly administered. They were allowed, the tribes who lived there, they were allowed to sort of, have their own system of self-governance. So we had this three particular kind of situation, and it's very thinly populated. And as a result of this colonial activity, actually Assam had a very high rate of growth towards the end of the 19th century. And at the time of independence also, the region was actually ranked about, the first national income statistics that came out in 1951. This region actually came out about third or fourth ranked state in the rest of the whole country. But this quickly, very quickly changed. The reason is that when we had the independence of India, we had as a partition country, this region had two kind of, shocks. One is the exogenous shock of the partition, and one is the endogenous development within related to identity issue. I think it is very important to realize these two issues to understand the whole background of Northeast region. First of all, basically when the colonial economy was established, when the modern sector was developed here, the outlet for the region was through what is now known as Bangladesh, through East Pakistan, or that time East Bengal and all that. So we had rail, road and waterways connecting this region. We are connecting this region to the rest of the world through Bengal. But once East Pakistan was created, suddenly this whole region actually lost its connectivity. And it started looking like a geographically isolated area. In fact, it's surrounded by foreign countries, as you can see in the map. Only about 50 kilometers of what is known as the Siliguri chicken neck connects this region with the rest of the country. So this has created, it has had a bloody blow on the economy of the Northeast, because as a destination of investment, which the colonial capital found it very attractive, that attractiveness has gone. And secondly, when, I will come to the point slightly later. And of course, because of partition, like in the western frontier, here on the eastern frontier also there was a lot of influx of population. So from 1941 to 1971, during these 3 decades, there was a very heavy population growth, particularly because of migrants coming in from the neighboring East Pakistan. And this has actually created a lot of stress on basic services of this region, and also led to some kind of natural resources degradation. And on top of that, per capita wise, if you calculate any economic indicators, that will be shown in a very bad kind of situation. Now the second thing which many of you from the outside will not probably know is that this region, which is very sort of, although we call it a region, it's very, climatic condition wise, altitude wise, very, very diverse. And this has resulted in diverse ways of doing things, like for in the hills you have jhum cultivation, shifting cultivation, and you have also ethnically very, very diverse kind of population. Alright? Language, culture, etc., and religion of course. So there is a great deal of diversity, and among this diverse population actually, during soon after independence actually, what happens? As I said, they were left out of that colonial administration period. So once the Constitution of India was accepted, these people cannot be left out. So they tried to devise something like autonomous council and all those kind of stuff. And secondly, among the tribes themselves, because a middle class has started emerging. Middle class, I mean, is the people like teachers, the lawyers, the bureaucrats, and all these people, educated people started emerging. They have started articulating their identity aspirations. Because these are very diverse people, they have their own identities, culture, language, and all. And this has also, unfortunately, many a time this has degenerated into identity, ethnic conflicts, of the end of which we have not seen. Right now, as you all know, must have read in the newspapers and news, a serious ethnic conflict is going on in Manipur, very sadly. So this is something which is happening right from the independence period, and this has actually created a lot of problems for economies to have developed. So as I have tried to explain, I don't know how far I have successfully been able to do it, after independence, because of exogenous shocks and endogenous developments within the region, there has been a lot of problems for the entire northeast region. Now, what happened actually is that in the early periods, 1950s and 60s, the central government's attention to this problem were not very much. Unfortunately, this was not very appreciated. What are the difficulties of this region? And there was very little things which have been done, and this was more seen like a, with security concern, China may attack, Pakistan may attack, and those kind of things. And that is a period where people of this region actually felt a little let down, And there was a sense of alienation which has started in the 50s and 60s, and you have, separatist insurgency movements like in the Mizos and all that also started. Then, of course, the government woke up to the situation. In the 1970s and 80s, we find that central government noticed the problem and tried to do something. In fact, in the 1970s, the whole concept of Northeast came up. Earlier, there was no such concept. Nobody was talking about the Northeast. They had a Northeastern Council, and they have organized this whole region into several smaller states. Okay, then Mizoram came, Meghalaya came into existence. Nagaland was already there, Manipur and Tripura were there, Arunachal Pradesh was also given a statehood and all that. So there was a massive, significant political and administrative reorganization of the region, and so that actually created, but what I'm trying to say here is that this approach in the 70s and 80s also was not very, it was rather reactive. So you have a problem there, you have some kind of problem there. So firefighting was the approach, not basically proactively trying to help the region. But the thing changed from 1990 onwards. Because from 1990 actually, when the market economy, we shifted the market-driven economy. Then what happened actually, it was realized that these remote areas are going to have more difficulties, and as a result of which actually, there was actually this Shukla Commission report from Planning Commission, instituted by Planning Commission, which had genuinely asserted that yes, the Northeast region had a lot of difficulties because of these connectivity problems and others, and there is a deficit in the basic services and infrastructure. So infusion of developmental fund is very, very important, and we find that in the next at least 2 decades, and in fact 3 decades you can say, a lot of fund flow started coming into the Northeast. In fact, it was so sudden that initially it was very difficult to absorb the whole fund. But so from that is this infusion of fund actually has helped to a great extent, because we see that in the in this present century, we find that this economy in the northeast, the states, started growing faster. And before I move, I'd like to have to make one more point that from 2014 onward, when this NDA government came into being, actually they have have another dimension into the whole thing. Because as I said, one of the problems of the Northeast has been the geographical isolation. So actually from 1992 they had this look-east policy, and they were talking about, I'm not saying they are doing much, but they were talking about opening up this region internationally through the eastern borders, okay, to the Southeast Asian and South Asian thing. And in 2014, after Prime Minister Modi came to power again, and he said that look is not good enough, we have to act this, so we have to do actively something about it. And actually I must say they have sincerely tried, particularly the connectivity within is also used to be very difficult. So those projects which were languishing for years, they have been expeditiously completed, new projects taken up. Today if you go to Arunachal Pradesh, for instance, fairly remote areas, but they are very well connected and all. So a lot of things have actually developed. But the problem is that opening up through the countries, say Myanmar and Bangladesh, has not moved very far. Myanmar, for instance, for a brief period actually revived, its economy was sort of reformed, so it has come into tune with our economy, so it was possible to deal with. But suddenly the militaries are again back in power, and this has disrupted the whole aspiration of connecting India's northeast through the Southeast Asia by this what is known as the trilateral highway, which goes from More and Manipur, our Vijay state, through across Myanmar to the head of Thailand, which is the beginning of the prosperity zone. Then of course there are a lot of talk of opening up from Tripura and Mizoram through Bangladesh. Now Bangladesh, that is of course going, I think some initiatives have been taken up, but then this Bangladesh situation also again it was improving and it was doing quite well, but some kind of uncertainties have again surfaced. So this is something which has created some kind of problem. So the alternative argument which is gradually developing now is that you're trying to open up externally through the eastern and southern border is fraught with a lot of uncertainty. Then why don't you look at yourself? See, if you look at this region, it is a region of 5 crore population, okay? And if the region is geographically isolated, if it is difficult for others to come and invest and do business here, then the same must be true that this is a protected kind of economy. So why don't you take advantage of this protection and develop your own economy? So to this, I would like to mention 2 difficulties are there. One is that the markets are not integrated. Markets across the Northeast are very fragmented for 2 reasons. One is that this physical connectivity has been very difficult, but then that can be worked out, and that has been to a great extent addressed. But there is other things also which I mentioned earlier, the ethnic divisions, things like institutions like the institutions like the inner line permits, which restrict the free movement of man and the population and so forth. So that actually creates barrier for the market to integrate. There are also other institutions for actually safeguarding identities of various groups, like the autonomous districts and those kind of things. So whole jumble of institutions have come up, and this are actually creating fragmentation, social fragmentation. Apart from that, there is sometimes this might amount to saying washing my dirty linens in public, but I have to say that what happens actually is that there is a lot of ethnic distrust also. So for instance, very recently, a couple of years ago, 2 Assamese boys went to a hill district called Karbi Anglong. They were suspected for doing some mischief, and that kind of mistrust is very common among ethnic mistrust among them. So this is something which are very slowly changing. The government cannot do much. The civil society organizations in the region, I think, will have to be more active and do something about this kind of things. Then only we can move. I have tried to sort of propagate the idea that we cannot take identity issues separately and what we call the development issue separately. We have to take this as what's in the WTO language called a single undertaking, because both can feed from one another, and if we have a policy package for that, I think it may make we may make headways. Now briefly about, I'll take another 3 minutes. Briefly about the current state of affairs in the state, the economic conditions. You see, in 2000, if we take the 2000 as the comparable, the first base for this, that time the per capita income of this region was 60%, only about 60% of per capita income of all India. In the meantime, both Northeast and all India has moved up, and Northeast has been able to catch up to some extent. So very recent, just before the COVID period, that is 2018, I believe, I did a little bit of calculation, and I found that it has come up to 70% of all India. So there has been some catching up with the all India. If you go for per capita income, then if you look at the states, you will find that Arunachal Pradesh is a very high per capita income. I'm not mentioning Sikkim itself. Sikkim actually doesn't, it's an outlier in the context of Northeast. It has been forcefully clubbed with Northeast. Anyway, so my analysis doesn't cover Sikkim so much. Arunachal Pradesh seems to be very high growth rate. Nagaland also seems to be very high per capita income. But these are not very genuinely reflective of economic levels. Arunachal Pradesh, there is a great deal of inequality. Then Nagaland also, figures I must say are not very, very reliable. But who is the poster boy of the Northeast among the states? It is basically Mizoram. Mizoram has been doing fantastically well recently. The per capita income is also higher than all India per capita income. Literacy wise, is 90% plus. Then the other indicator of human development, namely if you look at health indicators, the infant mortality is readily available. This has come down to about 3 or 5 or something like that, which is commendable. Now why Mizoram is doing so well and other states are not being able to do? One is one of the reasons is that when we had the peace treaty from Mizoram, that has actually started. In many peace treaties in the Northeast, Naga peace treaties, they have not been able to settle as yet. Okay, but Mizoram peace treaties has stuck. Okay, and the governance has been, I'll not say good, bad, whether the corruption is there or not, but government has been very, very responsive. So yeah, they have started new initiatives of various crops, so for instance millet and other kind of things. They are allowing exploration to go on, although all India could not find much gas over there. So they are open to new ideas. And thirdly, ethnically the state is more or less homogeneous. I think that has also contributed to the success of Mizoram. Okay, it's third highest, but then I think their growth is more genuine. Tripura, as you said, is also very, very interesting case. It is more or less a success story, because under the CPM, if you are a supporter or I don't know, we had a very respectable leader who had very sincerely introduced your Panchayati Raj and all those kind of stuff. But then of course later on they ran out of ideas, as a result of which a new government has to come. So I think Tripura is also reasonably doing well. But other 3 states, namely Meghalaya, Assam and Manipur, has not been doing very well. Actually, I feel very sorry for Manipur. One of the reasons is that this is inhabited by most talented, I think, the population group in the Northeast. You look at sports, you look at the presence in cadres like IAS and all that. You'll find Manipuris disproportionately represent their population. Their shares are much higher than that. But if you go to their states, this has not been doing very well, and whoever can, the parents, whenever they can, they send their children outside. So this is very, very sad. I think the civil society has to really play a more role rather than taking a very convenient position of, satisfying or playing to the gallery of the extremists and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things. And my own state, Assam and all, we have, Assam is the biggest, population-wise the biggest state in the region, and we have also considerable diversity. And of course, there have been a lot of social issues, but then generally it is not too bad, but there are some pockets. Particularly 2 pockets I would like to mention. One is that ex-tea garden workers. These were actually indentured labor brought by the Britishers to cultivate tea. They are socio-economically very, very backward. And the people who live in the riverine areas, they are basically from East Bengal, farmer, origin population. So the development has not reached them very much. So these are the 2 pockets which I think the government should focus. But government is not very, I will not say not very keen, but governments, after all political entities, they have their own priorities to win the next round of election. So I think I should not keep on going on and on and on. I have taken more than 15 minutes. I'm sorry, I meant to take 15 minutes. Thank you very much for giving me a hearing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll just move on to Engineer Dutta, but he has a small presentation to make. So by the time he said, so yeah, taking cue from what I was saying, particularly to where I stopped and to related to the SDGs, we find that there has been changes, and as I initially commented that Mizoram and Sikkim stands way above the national average. Tripura is close by, but very interestingly, what we focus is among the 17 goals. Obviously, life on water is not part of our region. Among the other indicators, there are almost, for all indicators, one or the other states has been doing good and etc. better than the national average and on the top bracket. But particularly among the one indicator, the 9th SDG, which is on industry, innovation and infrastructure, it is very interesting to note that none of the northeastern states, including Sikkim, scores above the national average. And it is in this background that we have Engineer Sushanta Doctor from the School of Logistics. I think he is going to deal more on, his focus will be on infrastructure, I suppose. Yeah, please move on.
Thanks to Chairman of this session, Dr. Indraneel Bhowmik, the other panelist, Dr. Bezbaruah, respected and esteemed guests who have come outside the state, the guests and the faculty members, and also the research scholars from Tripura University, esteemed other guests, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps I'm the odd man here because I'm not a man of economics. Because while we wish to have our DPRs, that means detailed project reports, all the time we have been facing problem with the economists to make any project viable. And they used to ask us what is this project benefit or this cost benefit ratio, what is the IRR, and what would be the net present value, this and that. But perhaps as I consider, this might be the one of the reason. I'm not blaming the economist. I should not say also on that, but perhaps it was one of the reasons for which the Northeast had been a neglected state, even by the main policymakers of the country. While Dr. Bezbaruah has made me very simple, or made me actually just possible to just avoid some slides which I prepared for the northeastern region, but he has emphatically given the background of this particular region, how it differs from our mainland of our country. So I'm from the School of Logistics. We are not looking after the economics and the other, but while we understand that to promote the business and industries, to alleviate this poverty and hunger, to increase the employment, to reduce this the rate of the unemployment, to make the people more educated, to become more entrepreneurial, to go for more startup, so that the people of this region can feel better or even at par with the other section of this land. So if we talk of this, the economy of the northeastern region, because my junior, a good friend of mine, Dr. Bhowmik, he knows far better, and he has represented this type of subjects, particularly with respect to our Tripura, in many seminars and the conference in the past. So, but to talk on this, actually to give something of the introduction of the northeastern region that I am not going into in detail, regarding the geographical, culture and economic condition, what Dr. Bezbaruah has already given to you. It's a different topography that we have here. It's mostly the hilly states, almost all this little bit of the Brahmaputra basin and the other part of this northeast. The unique biodiversity of this region is exceptional to the country, which you may not have any other parts of our country. The ethnic diversity, that is the unique in our northeastern region, where we have the religious diversity. It is the same region where we accommodate the religion both from the Buddhists, from the Hindus, and particularly even from the Christians. We do have at least 2 states in the northeastern region where the Christians are the majority. Even we do have one where the Buddhists are the majority, and the other, the mix of the people across the region that we do have. The agricultural pattern of most of the people, about the 70% of this, the population of this region, they are based on this agriculture. And definitely that is the conventional agriculture. The forest area is also the largely covered, actually that is also the highest in the region. But if we look, even the other unique features of this region, particularly of this northeastern region, is definitely weak. This is unique in their tribal heritage. This is the region where we accommodate about 200 tribals, 200 types of the tribals in this region. So I am in doubt whether in this sphere of the geographical area, whether it exists so many types of the tribals, even in the entire world, I don't know. Because that also I checked with that. So this is the unique quality of this. The linguistic varieties that we have, the tribal peoples, they have the different language. Even in our state also we have, it is about more than 12 numbers of different languages. They use the different dialects. So this is a very unique for this northeastern region. So they might be facing, or there might be some comments that these are also some disadvantages for integration of this entire section to one state. So that might be, but that is unique. The tea cultivation that India's tea cultivation started from this portion that was developed by the Britishers. This northeast has given much to the country. Much, because we had this much resources, natural resources, natural gas, the oil, tea cultivation, the forest, that have given enormous in the quantities to the other parts of the country. So these we can say within. And finally, the traditional crafts and handicrafts, these are unique. So these we can compare with any other parts of the country or even the world. That the tribe basically, that they have these crafts and handicrafts. Now I'm just coming to the economic landscape of this region. That we have been talking about this infrastructure deficits and the connectivity issues. But what Dr. Bezbaruah had told, that after that, actually in 1990, with this adoption of the bookish policy, now it is activist policy, even introduction of the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana for connecting all this village connectivity, and with the recent development of this present government for connecting more national highways to make under the NSDP projects, Northeast State Infrastructure Development Scheme, lot of connectivity projects have come up in the entire Northeastern region. Now connectivity is not that issue actually what it was about 30 or even 25 years back. Now we are much connected. Now the people of this region had to take the advantage of this connectivity. They have to connect these here from the market to the nearest roads available to them. Then the socio-economic challenges that we definitely have of the unemployment and poverty. Because that is one of the issues that I am not going into detail, because Dr. Bezbaruah has given, or even Dr. Indraneel Bhowmik also will share some of the comments. But we are having the opportunities for growth, such as natural resources, definitely on the tourism and the skilled manpower. We have enormous manpower. Even if you compare even with the literacy rates, that we have second state next to Kerala, that is Mizoram, in the literacy it is more than 90%. In Tripura we have more than 87% of the people which are literate. So in the other states that we have. If we look into this chapter, even the GSDP you will find, because since the state concerned, that when the all India average is this and this Northeast average is this, most of the states are below that line except this Assam, But definitely the Assam is a big state. Now if we come in straight away to the infrastructure development projects actually, You see, the government that had taken up these projects, these are the amounts that approximately the amounts actually against the projects which are going on, against the road connectivity, air connectivity, rail connectivity, and also for the inland waterways. Even you will find interest that other than this interconnectivity within the states, the government has also given importance for the connectivity with our neighboring countries, be it on the road, even in the rail, and even by inland waterways. And even today is the 24th, today was the date actually, anyway it has been postponed, but we are expecting on 7th of March, this actually land port at Sabrum is likely to be inaugurated. So once this is inaugurated and we can get access to Bangladesh, it is the Chittagong land, this port, and the new port that is coming, that is Matarbadi deep sea port, which will be only 70 kilometers from that area. So it will be connected with through port, the Southeast Asian and the other nations. And definitely the business opportunities and the other, definitely the other opportunities will be increased to improve these economic activities of the state or the region. So now state one, without talking into too much on this, going straight with the role of the SDGs, that how these can be the relevance to this northeastern region. If you see the SDG 1, 2 and 3 like that, no poverty, no hunger, this best education, the health, the SDG 4, the economic activities, SDG 8, like this and that, you will find that all this will become the very much relevance to the northeastern region. And basically, these are also connected that how we improve this, the situation or the index that we have right at this moment, so that this particular inter-region can also be improved economically. For infrastructure and innovation, but innovation part has been very minimum, though infrastructure improvement have taken place in the Northeast. And we have to take action on the climate, because that has been, I think, topic even since 1980 or even prior to that, when we used to join in our government service at the very initial time. And a lot of discussion had taken place, and then this Brooklyn Commission report, then this Rio Summit are taken place regarding this Sustainable Development Plan. But now much is being talked regarding the development or the environment. That has been debated for the long time. But now I think it is accepted by all that environment is a concern. Where even if we do some development that is to be sustainable. So these way, to achieve these SDGs, what would be the driving forces actually for the economic growth of the region? That means this is with our ideas that we should have investment in education and skill development. So far we have seen that this education system has been job-centric. And basically, if you ask someone, even most of the people who will be interested in even the other parts of the country also, if they would be happy if they get a government job. If they would be happy if they just get engaged even in the private companies. But if you ask that why don't you become an entrepreneur, why you don't start up a good business, there is a mind block. There is a blockage of mind. So these sorts of that thinking that we could not inculcate to our system of the education also. So that is also one of the reasons. That is why instead of job giver, we have become more job seeker. And that is one of the reasons for which this unemployment rate has gone high. And the other is the promotion of innovation technology. So this is the new technology that what is available, what is to be adopted here, based on the natural resources or the amenities which exist in this region. I think that would give more advantage to enhance the economic strength of the region. Support of small, medium-sized enterprises. Because at one time, this area was just more, even the policymakers were also interested to go for some manufacturing or the big business. But this is the region where we feel that this is not the region for a big industries to come up. But this is the region where we have the rich heritage, culture, traditional, the system of functioning, with the community system of functioning, where the small, medium-sized enterprise can definitely work in this region. So once though that type of the support is extended by the government and the other, even the private players. And sustainable infrastructure development, I'm not going into detail more that. And for the best natural resource management and conservation. Because Northeast being the region which is very rich with the flora and fauna, and having maintaining this environment footprint right at this moment, it would be our actually top priority, so that in no cases our natural resources are damaged. Because once this is damaged, the entire the northeastern region may be falling into big problem actually to support any economic activities even in future. And definitely for promotion of the inclusive growth and the decent work, that is basically the SDG 8. Now, if you look into this, what our Dr. Bezbaruah has also told about this, I'm not going to, because this is not my areas, regarding this SDGs, actually the India's achievement, this northeastern states achievement in respect of the Northeast India average and the India, it is not so bad. It is not so bad. We are there are 3 states actually who are very near to our India average, and the other states a little bit behind. So now if you compare with the unique comparative advantage of the Northeast region, the potential that we have, what we can do in this region to increase this economic potential or the economic activities. So first that we can concentrate on the tourism and travel. Because the scenic view and the flora and fauna, the forest business, then the tea, so everything that gives a very high spot hot spot for this tourism in the entire northeastern region. And next is the organic agriculture, horticulture and floriculture. Because this is a case, even though you know this Sikkim, which has been declared the organic state. But why don't we take the initiative to declare the entire northeastern region as an organic region? So without investing much on this agriculture, so the pesticide or the modern type of this, that how can you make it as an organic region in future? And definitely the food processing with the food habits of the tribals and other, how can you access for that? The handicrafts and handlooms, the indigenous crafts and weaving traditions that we do have mainly in the tribal communities, where we can enhance their production that level to have more economical advantage. And even the music and sports, this Northeast actually has produced many sports icons of our country. I'm not naming them, but if you compare them, that we have the big number of them. And in case they have the support, and if they have those type of mentoring, actually in future, I think that is possible there that we can have more sports persons from this region. And definitely the IT-enabled service, this is well connected at this present of the information technology. So there are many services that which can be introduced here, though these are e-commerce and the other, these are aligned. Even the Tripura State Technology, it is connected with our sea gateway and the sea cable. So that is only 3 locations of India actually that is connected with, and Tripura is one of them, next to Mumbai and Chennai. So if you just, I'm not going to, because time is short, I think. So these are the 3 areas where we can give actually more thrust for enhancement of the economy of this entire region, to promote the handicrafts, promote tourism and the agricultural sector, the agricultural cropping by its best management with the latest technology. Now key focus areas of this sustainable development that we can say, the environmental conservation and sustainable resource management, to promote the inclusive growth and to reduce some income disparities that we do have, to enhance the healthcare and education infrastructure, to go little bit from the conventional system to introduce this telemedicine that is already there, to how to make it even to the very, very remote areas of the Northeast, and the online system of the classes and the other, where the gap in between for this healthcare and the education still exists, can be reduced in the entire region. To encourage the innovation and definitely the entrepreneurship in the region, and also to strengthen the education and skill development to address the region workforce that it is required at present. And finally, I should say that the vocational training and entrepreneurship education to foster self-employment and job creation. So, because most of the time it is told that the action from the government is not up to that level for this development of this region. But many of us cannot agree with that. But we should also take up the advantage of this region to become an entrepreneur, to get involved with the other non-conventional type of the business instead of going for the job seekers. Then I think it would be more helpful on this. This is the way forward that we have actually. We should have some strategies for the northeastern region. It is not the same strategies that normally we take for the entire country. For northeastern region, the government has taken Northeastern Council, Ministry of Dutta, but we should have a very big think tank, basically the persons from this northeastern region, who knows the northeastern region better. Then I think they can work out the different strategies to meet up these challenges. And it requires the long-term planning for the investment and definitely the capacity building, and the harnessing technology and the innovation for the sustainable growth. So this is one of the important areas that what we can do for that. And definitely it's an important issue to carry forward, to have the partnership between the government, the private sector, the NGOs and international organizations to drive sustainable development in the northeastern region. And this I've already told for the think tank and the other regional forum to address the common challenges and they promote these sustainable development goals. So finally I will finish with the quote from Mahatma Gandhi, but it is said that economic laws which aims at material progress as well as social harmony and moral advancement should be formulated according to the laws of nature. And perhaps this is very much relevant to our region. With this, thank you all.
Thank you. I just look to the organizers that do we have time for question answer? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. Any queries, any comments, any observations? Yes, sir. Please.
My question is more of a clarification to Professor Bezbaruah. Long back, about 20 years back, in Tripura University, there was a seminar or conference as a part of the SAP program on the financial inclusion in the Northeast. If my memory serves me right, there it was discussed that among the extent of financial inclusion in the entire country, the progress deficit was around, the progress was around 58%, and in the Northeast it was alarmingly low of 37%. But I was told in that seminar by people, experts presenting, coming from the Northeast, including Professor Bezbaruah, that efforts have been taken to improve the extent of coverage of financial inclusion in the area. What is the current status? Has it improved or has it remained?
I'm grateful to Professor Mahendra that he mentioned this deficit, credit deficit ratio. So that's not the only indicator of financial inclusion, because that's a broad time, multi-dimensional thing. Some of the issues are obviously because there are not many, entrepreneur-wise it's not really developed, and small and micro, like my colleague here said, those sectors are not being able to access whatever facilities are there for them. So credit use particularly has been low. And the other one is that agriculture credit also in the region has been, for some reason, maybe even the governance issues or supply side issues, what you call Kisan credit cards are not very active. But one more issue is that particularly in the hills, some of the reforms which are very, very needed, which the banks will be very comfortable with, has not been taken up. I mentioned about institutions in the Northeast. So some of the institutions, say for instance land, used to be communally held, community-wise ownership, but that has to be now individualized. So those land reforms in the hills have not taken place. Cadastral surveys have not taken place. If you don't own a piece of land, banks are not very comfortable. People have tried to work with that. I was a part of RBI's committee to look into these issues, but not much progress has been achieved, except, I am mentioning again, to some extent in Mizoram. So other states, Arunachal, and what are the reasons? You have to look at the political economy of this. It's the elites which are taking advantage of ambiguity in the land rights. So basically they can amass, control the land, and landlessness, which was unheard of in the private society, have surfaced everywhere. Okay, so this is one of the, I think there are multiple reasons. One is that, that the reforms, institutional reforms, which in the hill states should have taken place, has not taken place because of variety of reasons.
Any other queries? Yeah, I'll just sum up. I think it was wonderful to have Professor Bezbaruah flagging off the entire issue and Engineer Dr. focusing with specific cities on it. As the moderator, I have the privilege to wind it up, and just to add to what Sir has said regarding the land assets and etc., particularly based on the field works that I have done relating to rubber plantations in Tripura, what we have seen, this kind of thing, the land, a lot of rubber plantations were initiated in the state as part of rehabilitation programs, and these were in the tribal districts and tribal majority areas. But over the years, what we have seen is the emergence of some kind of absentee landlordism within the rubber plantation areas, and that is very much prevalent, and I believe that has happened in many other states facing such kind of landlords. And also, sir, to add to the various prospects that we, yes, in the northeastern region, we do dream to have good future for the next generation who are coming up. Particular point, yes, what Engineer Dr. has pointed out about tourism, about food processing, these are the sectors that have been in the policy for quite some time. But particularly with the development of infrastructure in the last 5-7 years, I see two more opportunities. I don't know how that can be exploited. One is with better relation with Bangladesh particularly. When many of you travel tomorrow or today evening to your respective places in the flights, you will see a lot of passengers from Bangladesh using Agartala as a gateway to various other parts of country, particularly for medical purposes. So there are potentials or possibilities of having basic medical facilities or basic medical services emerging in Agartala itself, and there is a sizable population residing in the Tripura border. Secondly, Agartala, I will just read about Agartala. Agartala has the potential of even having something similar to the Atari and Wagah border, where we have the beaching retreat as a big function for tourist attraction. Agartala is the only state capital to have an international border. Thirdly, with the development of railways, the broad gauge connectivity which has gone to Shabrum, and Shabrum, which Engineer Dr. has said, its connectivity to deep sea port of Matarbari, where Japan is investing in large sums and they are developing Matarbari. Obviously that is part of their international programs, but Tripura can gain the access to the Southeastern Asia, particularly the railway connectivity. Can't we think of not only Tripura, can be in any other part of the northeastern region where we can think of having locomotive manufacturing units? Can't we think of vestibules being manufactured in this region, which is going to cater to the requirements of the region, as well as this can be exported? Railway connection is there. When you go to the airport also, you will see that the bridge connecting Bangladesh and Akhora and Agartala is ready. So can this come up in the mind of the policymakers? And regarding education, he has said yes, education, there are private investments coming and private universities in various parts of the northeastern states, and several higher educational institutes have come up. But with the wonderful climate that we have as compared to many other parts of our country, can this region emerge as a potential hub for middle and education, elementary level education? Because we also have substantial number of educated unemployeds in the region. And the last point which I would like to say is with Engineer Dr. has said that right now we have 17 airports functioning in this region. 17 airports. Guwahati is the busiest, Agartala is the second busiest, Imphal comes next, but there are also other small airports. Can these small airports also serve as centers for aviation development? Can we have pilot training centers or airways club coming up in this region, which will lead to a lot of trickle down as well as attract a lot of students and investments in that particular region. So with this, I think we would like to wind up the session. Thank you. Thanks for being part of the entire effort. It was a pleasure for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It was indeed an enriching session for all of us. A very important issue, not just economically, but geographically as well as geopolitically, to listen and understand the issues of Northeast. Now I request Professor Debnath from Department of Economics, as part of the organizing committee, to kindly come up on stage and felicitate our panelists as well as the moderator. Starting with Professor M.B. Bezbaruah. Next we have Engineer Sushanta Dutta, sir. Now the moderator of the session, Professor Bhowmik.
Thank you.